What a disgrace. Crooked Colorado removed me from the ballot because I'm unstoppable. Unstoppable like Chris Christie in a donut eating contest. Unstoppable like Rosie O'Donnell at an all-you-could-eat buffet. Now this once beautiful ballot is a sad ballot. Sadder than Pocahontas after she received the results from her DNA test. They took my highly respected and beautiful name off, and now there's a big hole on the ballot. I call it a gap. A bigger gap than the gap between Stacey Abrams' teeth. I call her the beast of the Southeast. That's a gap like nobody's ever seen before. Keep that spot on the ballot warm for me, because I'm going to be back stronger and better than ever. We will make Colorado's ballot great again, and we will make America great again. Believe me.
I saw this guy this morning on the TV.
Okay.
Yeah, Newsmax on a live show. The same guy doing well. It was with three other guys, but it was like their Christmas end of year show with some woman host. But he was one of them, and he did a little bit of Trump, and not as good as that. His live Trump. This was a live show.
Sure.
He was just winging it. He was caught off guard, but he was dressed the same way.
Yeah, he always dresses like that. That's what's. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I don't like it. I mean, there's a movie I see coming out now with it's a Roy Cohn Trump movie, obviously some HBO thing. But there's an actor who's portraying Trump who, if this guy could copy this guy's makeup, he'd have an incredible act going on, because remember the Obama impersonator? There was a guy who looked exactly like Obama. I don't know if you remember him.
I don't remember him, but I was thinking of a comparison. Kyle Dunnigan doing the Alec Baldwin.
This is a Jeremy Strong. Yeah.
Kyle, we've actually played the Kyle Dunnigan doing Alec Baldwin, where he does the computer bit where it's kind of like a merge of both faces.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if this guy did that.
I know.
Sort of to do slightly both. But you know what?
Because he's got an impeccable impersonation. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely the best of the lot.
I think he should show up at the Supreme Court and address the issues of the day as Trump, with that voice.
Yeah, or you show up at different places. Like, what was it you're talking about? George Carlin showing up at that club with the Secret Service.
Yeah,
people?
the seller. Doing his JFK impersonation, scaring the shit out of the Secret Service. One of the funniest stories I've ever heard. And that's why I guess people like the JFK content on the channel, because we've got such weird offbeat JFK takes on some of this stuff that nobody ever has, just simply because I've been told this stuff by George Carlin. So I mean, like, what are the odds of that? I don't even know if he's ever told anybody about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, anyway, Merry Christmas early, Happy Hanukkah, and
Merry Christmas. I'm wearing a dot tie today, commemoration of Christmas. Dots of the future of next season.
There's plenty of dots coming. Actually, do we want to talk about what's going to be after Christmas? Speaking of dots.
No, not really.
Okay, we'll do it at the end, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what is coming after. Did we say something or?
Yeah, you and I discussed.
What are we talking about?
LBJ.
Oh, next. It's about Tuesday.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, that's okay. I don't
Speaking
care about
dots.
that. Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome.
That's fine. You could tell them.
Tuesday is going to be a Q&A on LBJ, and you may want to check out our LBJ episodes. We haven't covered a lot on him lately. We have several of them. Ladies of LBJ and Did LBJ Kill JFK 1 and 2. We'll give them a watch. You may want to watch like Malcolm Wallace too if you have other questions, because it could be.
Let me be emphatic about this, because don't try to get other questions in about Dorothy Kilgallen or Judith Vary Baker or even JFK. This is just about LBJ. I know that sounds harsh, but that's what the entire show is about. I know you have questions about other things in life, how to get rid of herpes, and did JFK wear a back brace? Not involved in this particular show. Eric will be picking the questions. They have to be about LBJ. And I know you're going to try trick questions like, if LBJ dressed as JFK, could he have gotten a lot of women? That's not going to cut it. It's got to be specifically about LBJ for this Christmas special show.
Or a lot of cash.
Or I don't know, you could buy your way in maybe through Hunley. But I'm not answering anything that's not LBJ, JFK related.
Right. Well, all right. Back to our Colorado ballot. We did discuss this is a couple days old, but one guy who did take a good stance on that was this
They
guy.
have just tried to bar President Trump from the Colorado ballot using an unconstitutional maneuver that is a bastardization of the 14th Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. This was a provision, Section 3, that was designed to bar Confederate members, people who switched to the Confederacy, from actually being able to serve. That's very different than what's at issue here, to say the least. This is a hollowed out husk of what the country was built on. The basic principle that we, the people, select our leadership, not the unelected elite class in the back of palace halls.
My wife pointed out that he really needs to get better control of his selfie stick. You could see the camera shaking around as he's talking.
That's old world Europe, not the United States. That's why I'm making a pledge today that I will withdraw. I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary
Maybe
ballot.
he's out at sea.
Unless
he
and
could be
until
on the
Trump's name is restored.
USS Vivek.
And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley do the same thing, or else these Republicans are simply complicit in this unconstitutional attack.
All right, well, that's a perfect move.
I'm getting seasick watching the USS Vivek here.
I think it's his RV.
The RV was out at sea on a thing.
Apparently, as long as it's not the Dave Matthews RV, which has caused harm to other people. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't know about Dave Matthews RV. I know he was on the Willie Nelson special that I had to fast forward through him the other night on CBS. Willie Nelson's 90th birthday. It was a good show. Beck played and Chris Christopherson was there. And unfortunately, Sheryl Crow brought her curse on stage. But there was a bunch of different people who were very good playing with Willie's kids are unbelievable, by the way. The two boys who played with him as sons for the 90th. And Woody Harrelson introduced him, made some weed jokes. But all in all, not a bad special as a Christmas kind of thing. It was shot at the Hollywood Bowl. I don't even know what happened. I haven't even heard about this.
All right. Well, the Dave Matthews RV thing was he was traveling through Chicago and they dumped the screen over the bridge.
Right. Well, we have a bridge here called the Bridge of Lights. It's a brand new bridge on 6th Street in downtown, designed by a very famous architect. And the bridge is a string of lights. It's called the Bridge of Lights. And it's not a huge bridge. It's just a bridge connecting one portion of downtown LA to the other portion. And the string of lights is no longer lit up. So they went and investigated. And apparently the homeless have stolen all the copper wiring from this multi-billion-dollar bridge of lights. So it will not be lit up for the near future.
All right. Well, that was Vivek's response, which the Colorado Republican have backed him up and saying, hey, you won't even have to do it. We'll pull ourselves off and move to a caucus. Now, apparently Ron DeSantis had another response, which is kind of confusing, saying that the removal of Trump from the ballot is part of a scheme to secure Trump's nomination.
The hell's he talking about?
Vote DeSantis.
The hell's he talking about? I mean, this guy's grasping at straws. Look, and this is not the first time the Democrats have removed a Republican presidential candidate from the ballot. They've done this before. A guy running for a second term, could be stopped if you can remove him from 10 states. And they did this in 1860 with a guy named Abraham Lincoln, removing him from 10 southern states, the Democratic Party. So this is not new to them, folks. This is something they've done in the past. They looked into their history books and they said, hey, look, we've done this before. Now, I think that this is, of course, the brainchild of their mega brain, their Lex Luthor, Mark Elias. And I believe, this is just my take on it, I believe that the Colorado Supreme Court got out ahead of their skis in terms of scheduling. In other words, they presumed that these events in court would have been settled by now, and this was in the plans from day one, going back to pre-insurrection days, that they were going to get this situation on that schedule. But I think they presumed that the cases against Trump, that one or two or three of them would be resolved by now, justifying what they were doing. They were not resolved, and they were forced by their own schedule of the primary ballots to pull the trigger on this gun, which was loaded with blanks by Alec Baldwin. That's my take on it. Because I think that obviously the ruling's insane, but why did it happen then? They were up against the primary ballot being printed January 5th. The primary is March 5th, Eric, as you're well aware. So the January 5th ruling, unless it is interfered with by the Supreme Court.
The primary is not on the 5th. The deadline.
I said the printing of the ballot begins
okay.
January the 5th. The primary, as I just said, is March 5th. Did I not?
Right. Sorry,
what did I say?
I misheard. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, so I believe that they had this on their schedule of to do this as the first state. 9 seconds later, as I predicted when this happened, California immediately responded. They're doing it too. And as you know, when you look at the talking points, for instance, from the insurrection, they are, you can tell that these events are pre-planned by the synchronicity of the timing immediately after an event, and also the talking points matching. You cannot respond in real time on a mass scale like they do without, and this shows their hand. This is really indicative that these events are pre-planned, because you see the exact use of the word insurrection. It was in the planning. You see the timing of it seconds after the event. Okay, so we know that tips the hand of a pre-planned event. This was a pre-planned event because the ballots have to be printed by January 5th. They have boxed the Supreme Court into a time corner. The primary is March 5th. The other states use this, as I said last week or the other day on Twitter, or maybe even here, that California and the other states would respond rather quickly. There's breaking news out of Republican circles that they have now, this breaking story here by Calesto, that they're now going to try to remove Biden from the ballot in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona moments ago. So this is becoming a tit for tat thing with Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania are all battleground states. We'll see what happens with this. But getting back to Colorado for a brief second, everyone on the earth seems to think that the Supreme Court will overturn this. Don't be so sure. As I said, with a minor private debate with our friend Viva of the North, they may not take the case. They may just do nothing. And people,
states' rights.
Yeah. And people are looking at me like I'm a psycho. They have reluctantly and avoided every 2020 case because they believe that the states have the right to control their own primaries. This is a primary, people. This is not a presidential election. This is a state primary. The Supreme Court may very well do absolutely nothing, and this may stand. And I think that's Mark Elias's gamble, that they will do what they did in 2020, which is to say these are state-run elections. They're not federal elections. Now, I know you're going to say, well, they're federal candidates. Meaningless. They didn't weigh in on the federal election for president. They said they weren't going to touch those cases with Trump and Biden. So the idea that they would get involved in Colorado's internal primary for one particular party seems right. This is just my take. I hope I'm wrong. But once again, I believe that they're not going to do anything. And, well, Viva thinks I'm nuts, but we'll see what happens with that. I hope I'm wrong with this.
Well, hopefully the Republican Party pulled the power out of their hands anyway. That's an interesting move.
But it's going to go state by state, Eric. If there's no ruling, they don't care if they can disrupt every single state. California, what are they going to do there? California is going to have a caucus. Okay. So what's the damage done? You say, well, he's not going to win Colorado anyway. Okay, that's true. And besides disenfranchising 10 million people or 3 million people, however how many Republicans are in Colorado, there's coattail effects of Trump being on a ballot. They've now eliminated the coattail effects for congressional and state races. Nobody's mentioned this except me repeatedly like a psycho. There's a coattail effect, as Barris has pointed out and Barnes has pointed out, of Trump not being on a ballot and not having coattail effects in these state races. A coattail in California may have allowed, if he's removed, a Steve Garvey, the great Dodger hitter, who's second behind Adam Schiff, to possibly ride on Trump's coattails and get many, many votes. If Trump is not on that ballot, that may put the death knell to Steve Garvey's Republican campaign. That's something that Mark Elias would come up with. You know what I mean? These are things, they're always 17 chess moves ahead of these conservatives. I mean, it really is embarrassing. They're always fighting. And as Kid Rock said the other day, and I agree with Kid Rock, we're not conservatives. We're populists. We're coming over here, and Kid Rock is a Trump populist, and so am I. I am new to this whole thing on the right, and it's kind of shocking to me. And Eric is always holding my hand through these conniptions that I go through, because that's not where I'm from. I mean, I'm coming from a populist point of view here, and I've moved over savagely to the right in the past number of years. But the reality of it is, it seems like the right is always 100 chess moves behind the left, fighting the last war.
Hasn't always been that way.
Right. That's what I'm getting to about Victor Davis Hanson interview, which I recommend with Tucker after signing up for his channel. He had a 20-minute interview at the end, Victor Davis Hanson, who was one of these people. And I love Victor Davis Hanson, but he has been consistently late on numerous issues. When I first got hip to this guy, he was late on the vax. He was late on a lot of different things. He eventually catches up. And finally, yesterday in this interview, he said, maybe we need a Lee Atwater again. And I said, who has been saying that, Eric? Since the past year and a half, a guy sitting to the right of you. And Lee Atwater served a purpose. And he was the dirty tricks guy for the Bush family and did a lot of stuff. And here's Victor Davis Hanson, who must be watching the show, because at the end of the show, Tucker said that he's embarrassed himself, Tucker is, that he fled Southern California. And Victor Davis Hanson was talking about people who fled to go to Tennessee. He was using, Eric thinks it's a reference to the Daily Wire, but I think he was using the generic Tennessee, who have cut and run. And I've said that repeatedly on the show, that I'm not cutting and running. But Victor Davis Hanson, who's completely inundated at Stanford, has stayed on his farm in mid-coastal California and fought this war. And Tucker himself said that he was ashamed that he left himself, which I found to be very profound.
But there's no other way to do it. I think too many of us we just sort of retreat to the sidelines and say, I'm going to move to Tennessee or something. I can't deal with these people. They're crazy. And we've got to get out and get back in the arena, all of us.
I feel guilty for leaving California and impressed that you stayed. It's the prettiest state. There's no reason we should surrender to illegal aliens and angry white liberals. So bless you for doing that and for joining us today.
And I know it's muffled, folks, but this is the new Tucker Network. It was recorded off of TV just to share the point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think these people should sign up for the Tucker Network, but I shot that just for this thing off my computer. But the reality of it is, Victor Davis Hanson, while late to the party on many issues, has eventually come around on all of them. The guy's an incredible genius. So, but it exemplifies my point, how slow on the uptake the right continues to be, and how fast the movements are by the progressive Marxist left. Again, as I put on Twitter the other day, when is enough enough? I mean, at some point, when you're taking your presidential candidates off the ballot, it still incites no movement by the right. They just gripe and take it up the ass. It's astounding to me. It's shocking to me. There is a long history of leftist people, liberals, reverends, ministers who have protested things and gone to jail. These people seem to be terrified of possibly giving up their freedom and going to jail. I mean, women, girls have gone to jail on the left for anti-war causes and lesser causes. These people on the right just seem petrified of anything that would infringe upon their lifestyle. They're not opposed to belly aching and crying and paying their taxes and voting. But, now this election that's coming up in November is going to be the make or break, because if they steal this, then it becomes, now what do you want to do? Because at some point, they're going to have to get off their fat asses and do something. I know it sounds harsh. I know it's cold in Minnesota, but at some point, you're going to have to do something other than saying how outrageous this last event, fill in the blank, is. They know you're not going to do anything. There's no pushback to anything they've done. And they continue to keep going. I mean, these Leninists and Stalinists and Trotskyites are just going to, mow you down. Fleeing to Tennessee, as Hansen said, is not going to cut it. They will come for you eventually in Tennessee. Ask the Democratic mayor of Nashville.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know exactly when it switched, because Lee Atwater definitely was a force and did amazing work.
Yep.
But I don't like the guy, but Karl Rove played some dirty tricks. I don't know if you remember the push polling by McCain in 2000.
Absolutely. And so did Bannon could be the guy, but you got to have a guy. You got to have a plumber's unit. Nixon had a plumber's unit. They had, this Lee Atwater was a pretty good blues guitar player. But they seem to have nothing now. They seem to have just a bunch of weird people.
It's like Romney. It's like, I kind of feel like when Romney ran, it erased anybody with guts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but it's like they got nice. It was like Obama got elected and the Republicans were like, oh, we're afraid to say anything now, or kind of petrified. And
Sarah Palin had more cojones than McCain. Sarah Palin was running around shooting geese with a shotgun, and McCain was a prisoner of war who squealed on everybody. I mean, you talk about a dichotomy between the vice president and the president in that race.
Yeah, but then that same election was run by Steve Schmidt. Steve Schmidt, who was with Lincoln, and he's a Democrat. Yeah. So that's the thing is, it's like Democrats have taken over even in the Republican side.
Well, you're just going to have to produce more populists, because the Republicans that are the McCain wing of the party, this Cheney wing of the party, are still there, nefarious and active. They will bond with anyone to defeat the populists. That's why they're in bed with these Democrats, to defeat the populist movement. That's where we are right now. And the populist movement needs support. And the pushback is coming from conservatives, from the Cheney wing. Let's face it. That's who's pushing back on this stuff, Eric.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. I mean, these never Trumpers, these people who give oxygen to this fat fuck, Chris Christie, who, by the way, is not on the ballot
in Maine,
in New Hampshire, I think, right?
Oh, wait, no, Maine.
Okay, Maine. Okay, I don't know who's on the ballot in New Hampshire, and I don't know if RFK Jr. is going to make it to any of these ballots, because one of the side stories of Colorado is he's got dates that have already passed by, and I think January 5th is a date that he is not going to make it onto the ballot in Colorado, a state that would be a strong RFK Jr. state. I don't know. I haven't heard that he's on that ballot or not. I presume he's not. He is not, or we would have heard of it. Again, after a couple of primaries of him not being on the ballot, his campaign is going to have to fold up.
Yeah, but you know what? Good news. Joy. I think it's actually literally joyful news.
What?
Our illustrious Cornel West is going to be on the ballot in Alaska.
It's going to get the black vote in Alaska, which is massive. The Bleximo vote, the black Eskimo vote.
That's right.
Which is very strong. They live in an igloo co-op condo project community in Fairbanks, with one igloo stacked upon another in a ghetto type arrangement. And he's going to go and get that vote. It says Willow Project. It actually mentions a project in Alaska. I mean, the black population must be 0.07% or something, or 0.001. He just keeps going after Israel nonstop. Cornel West. I said never has a man been on the wrong side of history as so often as Cornel West. I mean, what a wasted campaign.
At least he's consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of being on possibly the right side of history, but at least standing up for free speech, one of the platforms that we deal with, who's also tied in with locals, is Rumble. And Chris Pavlovsky has released this, I believe today, a statement that they're removing Rumble from Brazil. And it is apparently in response, I'm not going to read this whole thing. It is in response to the Brazilian courts demanding that they remove specific creators, probably like Russell Brand and Glenn Greenwald. I'm just guessing. Do you think that
Greenwald, I could see Greenwald.
I have a feeling that Greenwald and Brand, probably both, maybe Andrew Tate, maybe Alex Jones. I don't know. But apparently Pavlovsky is saying, you know what? We're not going to remove the creators. We're just going to remove us from you in Brazil, which is good. I like to see him standing up for it. I have a feeling that Brazil won't hit the bottom line quite as hard as, say, England or Canada. But I like to see him stand up everywhere that they can and at least set an example for everybody.
Well, that judge there who's running ostensibly the anti-Bolsonaro movement, who's Lulu's right-hand hatchet man, is probably instrumental in, because he has been dealing with social media. The judge that we showed a couple of months ago when Lulu got elected, that guy specifically deals with social media.
Yeah, it's just completely insane. Now, I want to get some super chats in because I know you'll be positively shocked to know that we're demonetized already on this video.
What the hell did we talk about?
I don't know, and we're trying, but it's incredibly frustrating. We are demonetized. Fortunately, people are helping us out, like Dick Dickerson, who has given 10 Untold Stories memberships here on YouTube, which helps a lot. Thank you very much. That spreads it out, and that's essentially a $50 gift to us and others. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Did you hear that Ed Meese came out with a statement that Jack Smith's appointment is completely unconstitutional? And his former Attorney General, Ed Meese, and explained in legal terms why Jack Smith cannot be a special prosecutor as a private citizen. This story is early, but it's starting to grow. People are starting to look about Jack Smith's legitimacy as a private citizen being a special prosecutor. I don't really know what Meese was talking about. I'm going to have to look into it. It's a late-breaking story.
Was Ken Starr a private citizen?
I don't know what Meese is talking about, but the story is starting to spread on multiple platforms about Jack Smith's legitimacy. I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, there was good news on the Jack Smith front anyway today. Supreme Court turned down his expedited, so the case will not go forward until past 2024, it appears.
Right. Well,
so
we should address the Rudy situation, because he was just Alex Jones in the same exact format, same exact results as Alex Jones, a bench trial, a crazy woman judge who was advising the plaintiffs on how to get his money, $148 million ruling against him, a number that came out of thin air. The judge herself advising the plaintiffs, saying, don't let him file for bankruptcy, go after his, from the bench. This is from the bench afterwards, saying, go after his money now within the 30 days so he can't hide it. This is the judge saying this to the plaintiffs on how to get Rudy's money. Not that he has $148 million, of course. He immediately filed for bankruptcy. And one of the greatest travesties of justice since the Alex Jones travesty of justice. Alex Jones, obviously not in the same league in terms of acceptability, and the mayor of New York, former special prosecutor, prosecutor in New York, who busted up the mob and invented the usage of the RICO statute in a civil court, was declared guilty of libeling two fat black women who worked in the voting center. I think it was the ones that were caught with the chicanery of the ballots in Atlanta, who said they were slandered by Giuliani. But of course, it's worth $148 million for their slander. I mean, it's just crazy.
We were talking about that actually earlier today on the legal panel. Steve Southern Law wanted to talk about it and brought it up. It's not only the judge who's running the case, but the juries are getting a little bit crazy on this. And a lot of it is bad instruction, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
They're not rewarding punitive damages. They're rewarding compensatory damages. And that is weird because there is, tell me in what universe those two employees have suffered $16 million worth of damage. How much money
no
will they ever
universe.
make in their
No,
life?
they're pawns in the game. I mean, this is a situation where, like the Alex Jones case, he wasn't allowed to mount a defense, Eric. He wasn't allowed. Right. This is the same thing. And he won't, if they go after his money within 30 days, the case could be overturned in appeal, which is what the judge was warning them. So she was saying to try to secure his assets immediately so the case isn't overturned on appeal. I mean, I have never heard of anything like this in my life.
Right.
Anyway,
again, though, I wanted to stress the jury part because they're giving the wrong judgments too, which should automatically toss this out. Because if you wanted to go nuts, it would be punitive, but most states have ceilings on punitives.
Right.
So they're trying to sneak in big numbers. And I think the judges may be helping them with the poor directions, et cetera, to get the juries to bite and then overdo the compensatory damages. It's a significant problem.
There's a GoFundMe called rudyfund.com, which I urge people to send money to. It's supported by Donald Trump. He's endorsed this. He can't possibly fight back, Rudy. With this amount of money, it's just an astounding. He probably has $1 million in his bank, before this happened, or $500,000, whatever he's got going on. He wasn't impoverished, but now he is. He had to immediately declare bankruptcy. And he said if this was allowed to stand, his regular creditors who he would pay normally, let's say a mortgage, all of those creditors would have been wiped out immediately by this ruling by the judge. So I urge people to go to rudyfund.com and give whatever you can for this guy who's given a lot to this country and was the mayor of New York. I voted for him, like I said to Eric a couple of weeks ago, on the Liberal Party line to get around stuff when he was the mayor of New York. And he did clean up the whole city. I lived there at the time, and the difference was draconian. And there may be other Rudys out there that they're trying to intimidate, and he could definitely use our support.
And by the way, Mark voted for him back when he was on the other side.
That's what I'm saying. No, right.
That tells you how good the guy is.
Yeah. No. I voted for him on the Liberal Party ticket, which he somehow got on. I never understood how he did. But there was a guy named Mark Green, who was a sketchy kind of guy he ran for mayor a couple of times. I remember meeting Mark Green a couple of times. He tried to run for mayor a bunch of times, but he was on some other ticket, Mark Green, like he was on the Conservative Party ticket. So back in the day, people somehow would be able to get on these other tickets. I don't know if Mark Green was on Conservative, but he was on other party lines. Anyway, I strongly urge people to go to Rudy Fund, RUDY fund.com.
All right. On Rumble, Freddie65 with a Rumble rant said, Scott Presser on X today said all gun stores should have voter registration forms. We need young leaders and ideas. Yes, I do agree. You will find a lot of people leaning right at gun stores and anywhere else. Definitely get out the vote. That's one thing. The same reason that they say they've kind of given up in Republicans' own patriotism or whatever, for whatever crazy ass reason, Democrats own get out the vote, which I've never understood. They get out the vote.
They use tens of thousands of college kids who don't go home for the holidays. They have an army of union people. There's a lot of physical reasons, Eric. They have an army.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they have an army that they pay of union employees. They have an army of fanatical college kids. They have troops.
But the right used to have churches, which is a hell of an army too. Yeah. And I feel like maybe they've been too dignified. And again, it's another way to get out the vote. Hey, have you voted? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, if you're still debating the Trump issue and you're on the right, you have a problem. This is not our problem. You have a problem. You got to look into your heart of hearts and start thinking pragmatically. about, these other candidates, about Nikki Haley up in New Hampshire, all of a sudden, that obviously the mainstream media would like to knock Trump off the ballot and imprison him and let these other candidates win. But if you're voting for these people, you got a problem mentally. You really do. You've got some sort of patriotic problem.
Agree. Now, David Parsons is saying the 14th Amendment is voided by General Joe Wheeler in both the CSA and U.S. He is buried in Arlington.
I don't know what that means.
I don't think it is.
I don't know who he is.
I think you're talking about the 14th Amendment and the removing of the congressmen. This is pre-Santos, but I believe that was congressmen who were seated in Congress before the Civil War, left to be Confederates, and then came back after the Civil War. They're the ones who got jettisoned. Those who were not congressmen before the Civil War, who became congressmen after the fact, I don't think were jettisoned. So I'm not sure that this is in fact challenging that.
Article 5 in the 14th Amendment says only Congress can remove someone from the ballot, not a state legislature. So that's the end of that. That's it. Only Congress can do this. It doesn't say anything about presidents being removed, but the removal itself cannot be done by a judge in Colorado, nor even a state legislator in the state. It has to be done by Congress. Article 5.
Right, and then there's a
That's a great question. That's so inside. Thanks, Paul. The plaster casters actually did my friend Wayne Kramer, who was in one of my bands. Wayne Kramer from the MC5, the famous guitar player who played on Kick Out the Jam's Motherfuckers. He was plaster castered. Jimi Hendrix was plaster castered. This was a group of women who were groupies, who formed an art group that made a cast of famous rock stars' penises with the help of the rock stars themselves. And they put on art exhibits later of these penises at art galleries with various street cred, because they were a type of art. And Wayne told me about him doing it, and others. Jimi Hendrix did it, and others did it. But by the way, as long as we're on the subject, that was a great question. As long as we're on the subject, I watched a bunch of stuff, so you don't have to, or you do have to. I saw one of the most incredible South Parks last night. That's not for children only. Just premiered last night. It is one of the greatest It's all about social media. It's all about social influences. It's all about these kids who are trying to get a cred drink. It's like an energy drink, but it gets into spins off into all kinds. It's one of the greatest South Parks of all time. It's on Paramount Plus. If you have that, if you don't, it's well worth getting. And it's hilarious and very accurate and subversive, and one of the great political satires by the boys out of Colorado.
They've been nailing it this year. They've been really.
This one was unbelievable. The whole OnlyFans thing, and the FBI's involved, and holy crap! We were just sitting there with our mouths open last night watching this. Rebel Moon, I tried to watch. That premiered last night on Netflix. I'm watching this. It was about some space force comes. They look like Nazis. They come to other planets and make them give up their wheat, like Stalin with the Ukraine. And I thought, it's kind of interesting. They dress like Soviet Nazis. They show up with a Battlestar Galactica ship. They go down in this agrarian culture on a planet. And they said, you're going to turn over our wheat, kind of like the Ukraine with Stalin. And then they kill the leader immediately. Like, I can watch this. 5 minutes later, a girl in the agrarian group takes on all the bulky soldiers and kills them all. And I said, end of the show. That was it. I lasted, I think, 17 minutes into it. Part one it's a big movie, big budget film. Anyway, so that didn't work. And then this is so you people don't have to do this. I then watched, or attempted to watch, Maestro with Bradley Cooper playing the famous New York Philharmonic composer Leonard Bernstein. Absolutely insane. He's the writer, director, star, Bradley Cooper. And Sarah Silverman shows up. It's a period piece in black and white Sarah Silverman shows up as some gossip columnist or something, completely over the top performance by her. Just crazy, nonstop chatter, and completely an actor's movie, but completely unwatchable. So again, I had to turn that one off. And you know what it is now? You spend hours, or at least I do, researching these movies, trying to watch something, and you watch it for 5 minutes and you got to pull the plug. And I'm not upset about the 5 minutes. I'm upset about the hours of research I did to find a stinking movie to watch.
You just go back in time, I guess.
Well, I just watch French crime thrillers now. I found a channel called France, the France channel, and it's got all kinds of French movies on there. And a lot of these French suspense, drama, kidnap, crime films are 10 times better than ours. So, but I'm running out of them quickly. So I don't know what to do next.
All right. Kurt Burkhalter. The GOP was a new third party in 1860 and had never been on the Southern ballots. Hence, it could not have been removed.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Carl, re-election, not initial election, re-election again.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Jim Satala. Proof of the pre-planning was evident. Just prior to the ruling coming out, all the Democrats were on X demanding Clarence Thomas recuse himself from any case involving Trump. They showed their hands, and everyone needs to wake up. Yeah.
Right. I hope he doesn't recuse himself. This is about some phony thing about his wife.
Of course.
But again, the aggressiveness, pushing people back on their heels. What part of this don't they get on the right? I don't understand. This is multi-platform stuff happening on multiple levels. I mean, obviously, they have deeper media connections and collections than the other side does. But nevertheless, they very, very rarely ever go on the offense. It's always like they're putting out fires in their own backyard 24/7.
Yeah. Joshua Turnage. Does Gavin Newsom not releasing Sirhan from prison create PR problems for his campaign, or does he release him in future for brownie points?
Well, I think he didn't release him because of his campaign. So I don't know. Is anybody talking about Sirhan today? No. I mean, come on. That was a no-brainer. I mean, PR problems for his campaign. Does he release him in the future? Highly doubtful. There's no upside, for Gavin Newsom to release Sirhan.
None.
The only one who's going to release Sirhan is RFK if he ever gets elected president in 2028, which is a century away.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. And Helena with $50 Canadian. Thank you very much. You guys are being really generous here.
A lot of Canadian followers up there.
We have some for sure. George Erickson, Merry Christmas to the two of you and your families. Great program.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Now, let me switch back. We're going to get into. Did you see this article? I went to Rich Barris immediately about this.
What?
I saw this come out.
No. I DM'd him this morning about this.
I did too, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Okay, something's wrong with this."
Yeah.
He immediately wrote back and he said, "Yes, that is actually bullshit."
Okay.
That this is a totally non-respected group. So they're saying that she's within 4 points of Trump, right? Whoever this
I saw that.
idiots are. Now, the same day, hold on.
See that guy, Governor Sununu?
That's his son. Wait, no,
Right.
is he? Okay.
No, that's his son.
Wow.
He subletted my apartment in New York once many years ago. And when I got it back, it had holes punched in all the walls.
Oh, that's classy.
I just want to point that out.
All right. Well, this one came out the same day, and I don't know if it'll ever load. For some reason, my internet is flaky. Trump way out in front. Haley trails by 30 points. Same day. And that's a respected poll.
Wow. Well, again, this is all going to be washed out in a matter of days, 90 days. These primaries are going to be putting up numbers. They can't spin the reality of the numbers. This is all a last-ditch Hail Mary attempt by the rhinos and other forces. Now, Trump pointed out last week that he found out that Democrats were funding Nikki Haley's campaign. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're funding their polls to go with Nikki Haley's campaign as a last-ditch effort, again, to throw another monkey wrench into Trump's inevitable coronation as the nominee of his own freaking party. So again, anyone who starts taking oxygen out of the room by discussing these non-candidates is denying more media coverage of Trump and his problems, which is what they want. I can't keep saying this, but apparently I have to, because it's not getting through. The reality of it is CNN is now going to host 2 town halls with these people. What do you think CNN's motivation is? This is not the RNC. This is now CNN having town halls with people who are going to denounce Trump on the CNN stage with Wolf Blitzer and Anderson Cooper or whoever the hell is over there. Do you think this is really designed to help these candidates, or to yet throw another monkey wrench at Trump? I mean, the fact that these people have agreed, if Vivek does it, I'll be surprised, but he may want to have some more publicity for his stuff, so he may go on CNN. I'm not really sure why anybody would do this in January when the primaries are so close, but that's the state of affairs in this party that keeps shooting itself in the foot and will not rally around their. Again, if it was these races were close, I would say all of this is righteous. These are races that Trump has all but won legally. There's no way he's going to lose any of these primaries by less than 30 points. And yet we're supposed to just accept this as if it's a pennant race in September with the Giants a half a game in back of the Dodgers. This is not the case. That's why I can't support any of this crap, because it's staged stuff to attack Trump. This is staged theater to attempt to derail him even more. Anyone who cooperates with this, anyone who watches this, anyone who discusses this is shooting themselves in the head. So you got to get off this, not you personally, I'm talking about the audience, just got to get off this train at some point now and just say it's Trump or bust. I'm sorry. There are things about Trump I don't like, but I'm not a psycho. You have to be pragmatic, people.
Yeah, well, as Rich was pointing out earlier today, I managed to catch a few minutes of his episode. Sadly, over recent years, the Democrats have been very heavy on the shading of the pollsters.
Yeah.
It's been from the left. However, this year, the shadiness is from the right.
But we don't know. I mean, if they're, as Trump says, if they're funding Nikki Haley's campaign, they may have their fingers financially in the pie of right-wing polling organizations as well. I don't know that.
But it's still the right that it's happening, you know, the shadiness. And that, I mean, that's pretty despicable when you're just releasing lies for polls. I don't know if it's desperation or
it's desperation. It's it's a Hail Mary. All these people have weighed in on Colorado except one person. And I'm going to give you the name of the person in a second, but it staggers the imagination how this person has no opinion on the situation in Colorado. And this guy's name is Mitch McConnell. He has not said one fucking word, this piece of shit out of Kentucky. This gay piece of shit who's married to a Chinese agent. And the fact that this guy is allowed, never mind in the party, never mind a senator, never mind a representative of Kentucky, but to be the leadership of the party staggers the imagination that this piece of shit is still in there, has not said a word about the Trump Colorado debacle.
Yeah. Somehow not surprising. It's one of those that is shocking, but not surprising.
And Hulk Hogan got baptized. So there's
I did see that. I was
some good news. Hulk Hogan got baptized.
I was like, well, that's the only thing I've heard of Hulk Hogan since that lawsuit when he took out Gawker, which was a heroic thing.
Yeah. With the help of Peter Thiel, right?
Yep, Peter Thiel.
Thiel or Teal?
I think he says it as Teal, but it's spelled Thiel. So I'll go either way. I don't care.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, one of the good stories I saw yesterday, a good story. I don't know if it's a good story, but apparently this side immigration story, the Delta Airlines pilots and other Delta employees and other airlines employees are now reporting that this flying for free program of the illegal aliens, where they simply show their arrest paperwork to get on these planes, they're now receiving premium seating on the planes. The pilots have been ordered to say nothing by the CEOs. I am demanding that the CEOs of these airlines be brought before Congress and put under the bright lights of congressional inquiry under oath. They have to reveal why they are doing this for free with no IDs for people that they have nothing to do with immigration. They have nothing to do with immigration. You have to just put them under oath, all the CEOs, like they did with the cigarette manufacturers, and demand answers as to why they are allowing dozens and dozens. This woman who was a reporter yesterday was at the Phoenix airport in a flight to DC, and there was about 50 of them or 35 of them online getting into premium seating on the plane with no ID. And why Delta? Now, you got to go after Delta, because the Biden administration is not going to respond to any of these inquiries with Mayorkas. You have to go after Delta and American, United, the CEOs, put them under the lights in the hot seat and say, why are you threatening the safety of American citizens who are being forced to strip down, show their IDs, take off their belts, take off their shoes, show their driver's licenses and IDs to get on these flights? And these people do not have to do anything, nor do they pay for the flights, and they're receiving seating up front. This has gone off the rails, people, off the rails. And it's not just out of Texas any longer. This woman was on a flight, this reporter from Phoenix to the East Coast, and this was on her flight. This is spreading, and she talked to a number of the employees at Delta who said this began day one with the Biden administration of these flights. These flights are an Achilles heel of this Biden insane open border policy. And Gates and this crew of MAGAs have got to get these CEOs of Delta, United, and American under the bright lights of interrogation and find out if the administration is paying them back through a back door. That's what I want to know about. And I think that's what's happening. I don't think these guys woke up one day and said, we're going to let 35 people fly for free with no ID. The Biden administration, they have to reveal under oath that they came up with this themselves, which is highly doubtful. And if they did come up with it themselves, let them bury themselves by perjuring themselves under oath, or give up the name of Mayorkas and his underlings who have decided, which I believe is true, to pay them through a back door to do this policy. Either way, these cats have to be dragged out of their ranches in Colorado, or wherever the hell they're enjoying Christmas, and dragged into congressional hearings and put under oath.
Fair enough. However, I am not opposed to all flights for migrants. I don't know if you are aware of what went down with Chicago and Texas and the problems between there. You know that Chicago is a sanctuary city, right?
Everybody knows that. Of course. It's in their Constitution.
Well, there you go. And Abbott took advantage of it, and they had charter buses that were running migrants up to Chicago. Any undocumented migrants, run them to Chicago. Well, Chicago now changed their laws saying you have to have a license for your buses to enter our state.
Touche, my friend. Touche.
Okay, so then they said, fine. The buses would just drop them off just outside of Chicago to all the suburbs.
Whoa, that's even better.
So they passed new laws saying that you can't do it. But hold on, it gets better, because all the surrounding areas have passed laws that they can't do it. And the bus company said, hey, look, Abbott, we just can't do it anymore, blah, blah, blah. So Abbott and them said, fine. They got some planes. And they paid for private planes.
Okay. All right. I'm down for this.
Flying on federal airports, which Chicago can't stop, and shoving it down their throats.
Well, they're living in the airport, for Christ's sakes, in all these cities. I mean,
but it gets better, because they're able to move 120 people at a pop multiple times a day. So they're moving.
Well, he signed a law that they could be arrested and incarcerated now, which is a breakthrough law on the part of Abbott to finally do something here in terms of arrest and incarceration.
Yeah, so maybe he's given a choice. Maybe he's saying, tell you what, you go to jail or get on a plane.
Well, they also said in Chicago that they're not going to put sanctuary city status on the ballot and let people vote for whether their city could be a sanctuary city or not. That's been removed as a proposition, from what I understand, from the Chicago ballot. Here in California, Governor Newsom prevented the lighting of the Hanukkah menorah in public, and also the Christian Christmas tree in public, demanding that there would be too many pro-Palestinian.
Right.
What's that?
For safety, right?
He said for safety, there would be too many pro-Palestinian protesters. And so the lighting of the massive Christmas tree in Sacramento, the state capital, has been banned by Newsom, the Grinch who stole Christmas. And he's also the Grinch or the Grinch who stole Hanukkah, because he prevented the lighting of the menorah, which is also done in Sacramento for the same reason. So we now have to have secret religious ceremonies in our attics, kind of like during the Inquisition in Spain, when Jews had to become Marranos, that was secret Jews, to avoid the Inquisition. We're now having to practice our religious principles in private because of the pro-Palestinian Hamas Nazis that are roaming the state and the country, and have sided, as one Muslim woman pointed out the other day on TV, that was a Muslim activist. She showed the protest signs from the protests, and some of them are freepalestine.org, but a lot of them are the World Socialist Party. So it's combining two groups that hate America's guts. One is atheist, the other is, reading the Quran. But the commonality is the death to America theme and the hatred of Israel theme. And there's a couple of themes that are enough to make these strange bedfellows team up, and they have teamed up. It's like Antifa, meets Hamas, so this is a very, very strange combination of people. But I guess, the hatred of America and the Jews and the Christians is enough to unite, and don't forget the Christians, unite Hamas with the Marxists.
Are you familiar with the fish and the story behind that? That you see all the time, the Christian fish?
I'm not a Christian, so I don't know.
Okay, well, the Christian fish was, during the Roman times, they had to hide that they were Christians. So they would stand there.
Oh, right.
And they would just make a semicircle on the ground. And then the other person, if they were a Christian, would know, and they would complete the fish.
Oh, that's where we are.
I was thinking that the code is going to be something like that in the future now, sadly.
Right. Well, this is where we are. The question is, what do you want to do about it? This continues on and on and on. Now our services and our traditions, even the ceremonial ones, are being hidden. They're not going to hide in their mosques. They're not going to stop. They took over Grand Central Station yesterday in New York. Hundreds and hundreds of these Hamas people, and in the middle of the death to Israel, death to America, genocide of the Jews chanting, they all of a sudden stopped, got on their knees, put out their prayer rugs, and started praying. And the whole thing stopped. The whole game came to halftime, and they did their prayers, got up from their prayers, and continued with death to the Jews, death to America, stopping everyone from going home in Grand Central Station in New York and Penn Station in New York, at the two biggest train stations in the country. This is who they are. And how long we're going to put up with this, I have no idea. They have been emboldened by the left. They have money that's coming in from the left supporting them to do these draconian protests that are fully aggressive.
Wow. Let me get some more support here from folks. Bernie, I guess I shouldn't say, we're not doing the LBJ questions today. The questions will be.
Oh boy, I can't be any more fanatic about how declaratory I was about this. I mean, Bernie, you got to put down the pipe. You got to put down the pipe, Bernie. Just pay attention. We're talking about Tuesday. This is Friday. This is a news show. We have stories and stuff on Tuesdays. It's questions about LBJ. Anything goes, but it's got to be LBJ, Bernie.
And on Tuesday.
And it's free. You don't have to give us $5.
Pasha said, "Can LBJ make this stuff up?" Just kidding. But I'm looking forward to Tuesday's episode almost as much as I'm enjoying today's. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Pasha. And
he's a great loyal viewer. Thank you.
Right. Happy Simchas Torah.
Ja Will, 7 is God's perfect number. What were Oswald's steps from the TBD to the theater? That was around 80 minutes or so.
What were Oswald's steps? Well, he got on the bus. The bus got stuck in traffic. He went to the taxi stand. He was going to take a taxi, and an elderly woman came, and he, using his Southern gentlemanly upbringing, gave up the taxi to the elderly woman while fleeing, supposedly, like John Wilkes Booth. he decided to take the next taxi. And how do we know this? Because the taxi cab station manager said so. He gave the woman his taxi, took the next taxi, who took him back to his boarding house. So that was his escape, his mad dog escape from the Texas School Book Depository.
All right. Frau Featherstone said, cute trick. YouTube demonetizes this video, thus compelling the audience to give super chats, of which YouTube takes 30%. Yeah,
look,
it's a good racket.
it's a good racket until there's federal legislation to stop these people. Nothing's going to change. I mean, you can't have a product like this, with no rules that involves money. I mean, you could have a product, but you can't just willy-nilly take away money and give money whenever you want based on no rules whatsoever. There's got to be a federal investigation into it when we regain power.
There is good news on that front, though. I don't think you follow a lot of tech world, but I believe it's Epic versus Google. Have you heard about that case and what went down?
No.
Okay, well, one of the issues with the super chats is not only does YouTube take 30%, but if you pay on your phone, Google
you told me this. Yeah, you told me about
30% before. Well,
right.
Epic is a game manufacturer. They put inside of their game their own store and got thrown out of the App Store and Google Play. Epic has sued. They sued both Apple and Google, saying that they're monopolies, and you can't just run a store where everybody has to pay that store just to be on the device. They lost against Apple, except for 1 point.
Right.
They just won against Google Play or against Google, which is huge news because that's saying that it opens it up. And the EU is coming down. So the App Store lock-in and the Google Play lock-in, that may be going away. Why do we care? Well, it's a significant thing because remember, one of the threats against X, for example, bringing Alex Jones back, would be that Apple and Google will remove the apps from the App Store, which is severely damage a business. If, however, they aren't a monopoly any longer and there's competing app stores or another way for people to install the apps, screw their power.
Wow.
That is huge, and it is a major win for free speech. So I didn't know if you knew about this, and it may seem, really nerdy with gamers and this and that. But
I mean, the gamers may save us all. And I'll tell you what you mentioned. The EU may save us in this social media arena because of their draconian free speech laws or hate speech laws. Let me put the reverse. They may be able to fine these companies into submission in a positive way. Obviously, this is some negative stuff going after Twitter and going or X and going after some other groups, but it cuts both ways with the EU. So there's some good stories coming out of there, what they're dealing with social media themselves.
Yeah, and that is a funny one too, because if the EU gets too draconian on the other side, then that can force Apple and them to just say, well, we just can't control anything. We're going to open source it all, so then we just have no control, nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And that would be another answer. So I don't know. There is a silver lining to some of these. David Parsons is correct in saying Wheeler was a lieutenant before the Civil War. Same oath, maybe, but he was. I think we discussed it on the legal panel earlier. I encourage you to check that out. Mike Smith. Very generous. Thank you very much. Here's to demonetizing. Happy to help, guys. Great job. Keep it up. That really does help a lot.
Mike Smith, of course, a pseudonym for Tommy Corcoran, who's a pseudonym for someone else. But Smith, thank you so much. Is that a picture of him?
I'm guessing.
Is that
picture.
Big Mike?
It looks like Big Mike.
Thank you, Big Mike. Thank you, Big Mike. That was great. Thanks, bro.
Well, this is a question for you, Mark.
What?
What good did Hillary do for New York as a senator? Also, is it Taylor Swift?
I don't know what she did. I don't know what she did. She wasn't even a resident. I think she had to do a Robert Kennedy carpetbagger thing, if I recall. She had to move there and establish residence like Robert Kennedy did when he ran. And also, I don't know who Zena Levy is, but Taylor Swift or Tyler Swift. I think the guy may be
Taylor. I just assume Taylor.
Okay, Taylor Swift is a political operative now because she has gone after Marsha Blackburn pretty hard when she was running for re-election in Tennessee. She is a player, Taylor Swift. She's wide open. If you're a Kansas City Chief fan, you're stuck with her right now. So I'm a Packer fan, so I got my own problems. But
hold on, her and Pfizer both. They're
what?
stuck with both her and Pfizer because remember he's like her boyfriend is a Pfizer spokesperson.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah. So he's got it coming both ways.
Yeah, I don't like Mahomes anyway. The guy's a hot dog. I don't like the whole team. I don't like Kansas City. They have our former coach who couldn't run a 2-minute drill to save his fat ass, that piece of shit. So I'm not a Kansas City fan. And I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, who's obviously just a complete freaking weirdo political operative,
I've never heard a song of hers.
Oh, no. Yes, you have. You don't even know it. You've heard it, but you're not aware of it.
Maybe on a soundtrack or something, but I couldn't name one. And
I saw her in a movie the other night. She had some bit part in a movie. The producer was her agent or something of this particular film. I don't know how she stumbled into that, but
wow. Hey, Tommy Jekyll on Rumble said Barnes and perhaps other lawyers have said how a lot of the myriad cases in the courts should go. If it was one or two not going those stipulated ways, I'd not remember. But when mostly all fail, geez. Well,
I don't know if they're all going to fail. I mean, they're going for volume here. They're trying to throw whatever they can against the wall, whatever sticks. I mean, again, Trump just has to keep going forward and not be concerned with these cases and show up in New Hampshire or show up wherever he wants to show up and deal with this stuff, because eventually they're going to keep moving the goalpost. And if the cases fail, they're going to go to plan B.
Oh, this is what Samin asked maybe. Is Taylor Swift a clone of Anton LaVey's wife?
Again, I'd have to. What does Anton LaVey's wife have to do with
I
this?
forgot
What?
His younger wife. I guess they look similar.
What?
I don't know.
Well, that's a stretch. I'd have to investigate that for the rest of my life, and I don't have that much time left. So I'm going to take his word for it that Taylor Swift is a clone of Anton LaVey's wife. I mean, Stanton LaVey, strangely enough, lived with me for a short period of time with his pit bull when I lived in Valley Village with Legs McNeil. That was a strange household when we had the grandson of Anton LaVey. But we could go to our episode. Didn't we do something?
Yes, we did.
We did something on Anton LaVey.
And believe me, thoroughly demonetized with an adult warning, by the way. You have to click through to watch it. Thank you very much. That and Jim D.
Why? Because of Satan or what?
No, because the other S word.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, well, Satan's okay, but the other one's not.
No, it appears. Yeah. I mean, Satan would just be normal demonetization, but not the adult label.
Right. Well, I think Legs was trying to write a book on Anton using Stanton as the source. But I don't think it ever happened.
All right. True Ellswick. Question: do you think there's a deep state effort to cause civil war? This Colorado and other Trump court proceedings have me worried.
Well, what has me worried is you can't even spell my name, so that's more concerning to me than your $10. I'll give you back the 10 if you can correct the spelling of my name. Do you think there's a deep state effort to No, of course not. Why would we think that? That's just crazy talk. Come on. This Colorado and other Trump court proceedings have you worried? Really? This is what I'm talking about, Hunley. The whole world's falling apart, and people are going to go, hey, you think anything's going on? Where do these people? Where do they hang out? Where all of a sudden, this stuff's got me a little worried, Bob. Have you noticed?
I'm gonna take
it's just
stance.
Shocking to me.
Well, hold on. I'm going to take the stance of being a corporate
she's foreign.
drone.
She's from another country.
No. Okay. As an example, my old boss would work 60 to 80 hours a week and did not have time to look into all the politics. He didn't know.
For 2 years, 4 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, dude, the guy killed himself practically working. Right. And there's a lot of people out there who do work all the time, and they're just finding things out now. That's
my dad
a lot
worked
of
all this. My dad worked overtime every day he could because my mother tortured him into working overtime. He was still aware of the news, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, at work maybe, but I mean, I can tell you flat out that there's a lot of people who are not because they're very focused in what they're doing.
Oh, the focus is going to be so good they're going to lose their Republican, end up in a gulag in northern Montana.
Well,
I hope they have that worked out.
let's hope not. And let's just welcome the people when they come.
Which
And not
people?
say anybody. If somebody suddenly discovers today that, oh, wait, something's wrong, instead of saying, hey, where the hell you been? It's like, okay, good to have you. Come on, here, you can help out.
Well, that's the difference between me and you. All right.
Yes, I have a soul. No.
No. You just keep welcoming them like it's some sort of picnic in the park.
Well, I'm not going to turn away help.
I'm not saying to turn them away. I'm saying, where have you been to wake up all of a sudden and say there's something wrong?
Well, we have that right now with the Harvard situation and Claudine Gay. The
Let me tell
main
you something
guy
about this
who's
situation.
pulling the money,
Yeah.
he's not known as all these years, but he's saying, I will not donate anything. I'm shutting it all down. Well, welcome to the party. Where have you been?
Let me just
Welcome.
address this thing, because in a book, there's an acknowledgement page in most books,
Mhm.
or even in a PhD thesis, there's an acknowledgement page. And it's basically, Eric says, I want to thank my wife for helping me with the research. My son helped me, my agent. I want to thank Jimmy Cochran, who was my manager. It goes on and on and on. You know, my PhD advisor. Anyway, so she's got an acknowledgement page. This is the gay woman. And she's got an acknowledgement page. And as Chris Rufo pointed out yesterday, I can't even say this. She plagiarized the acknowledgement page of another book and just inserted the names of her own people into that cut and paste grid of stealing and plagiarizing the acknowledgement page of some other publication. I mean, this is the lowest level of education thievery I've ever seen in my life. Something you would do in high school, literally in high school, because you're stoned and you want to go party. You might do this. This is the president of Harvard, folks. This is beyond. Now they've changed the wording. The left has changed the wording of plagiarism to something else. Misattributed words or something,
misattributed or incomplete attributions or
something. They changed the phrase thinking this will work. Again, this is crazy. And she, of course, has a sister, I think, who writes slave romance novels, a separate issue completely. But again, they have these slave porn novels that they all write, which are victim porn slavery novels. They all write one. Anyway, so her, who's the head of Harvard, has now plagiarized everything that anybody can get their hands on.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you expect? I mean, there's another president who loves to plagiarize.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
You can't get any better. And that, by the way, that was not just his speeches, not just everything he did in his election. It was all the way back in his school. The acknowledgments is not surprising because plagiarism is a pattern crime. Most plagiarists, they get away with it one time. Oh, that's my new method. And then they do it all the time. And then by the time they're caught, you're like, holy shit. Remember Glass? I think it was Stephen Glass out of a New York Times.
Yeah, Shattered Glass.
And Jason,
the New York, he was black kid at a New York Times. Who just
I can't remember.
Smoked crack and just wrote stories in his apartment.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Anyway, yes, another one. And again, just
it's very disturbing to me as a journalist and a lifelong writer that this is allowed to happen and without any penalty. It's really, really disturbing.
Well, you know what I'm hoping for is that I would like the Harvard students who got expelled for plagiarism to sue and say,
I think their families should sue.
Absolutely.
Right, because if that's the standard at Harvard, by the way, they kept their money, the tuition. I mean, these families should put together a group and contact Barnes and go as a class action suit. There must be 100 of them over the years that have been expelled for plagiarism in Harvard alone, or the Ivy League schools combined. I think they've got a class action suit saying, look, it seems to be okay for thee, but not for me.
Oh, for sure. And then we could run Harvard further into the ground and hopefully shut it down as an institution. I want them to burn up.
I want the JDL to physically reform and go onto the campuses with baseball bats and smash their heads in. Is that wrong, Eric? Am I wrong?
Metaphorically, YouTube.
No, not metaphorically. I mean,
metaphorically, YouTube.
we did the episode last week on the gangsters versus the Nazis.
Yeah, on Tuesday, which is permanently demonetized. Thanks.
Right. But that's why I did the episode, because that's what they did in 1938, 39.
Yeah. Anyway, as Mark was
But
saying,
Eric has his own, they have their own thing on the right where they just keep suing and have these judges to throw these things out of court for standing and latches, and as Barnes and Viva talk about all the time. But that's a better way to do it. That's a better way.
Yes, when it involves my income, it is a better way. Al Gonzalez from the Shush Table. When Rudy was sworn in, they told us to take back the streets and don't be afraid to do other things.
Yeah,
good man.
He's absolutely right, Al. I mean, it started with the window washers. It started with the
fair hoppers.
The fair hoppers, and also the no broken glass, where they put up these phony, which was brilliant. They put up, it was almost like an art project in the South Bronx, and they put up facades that looked like the windows were unbroken. It was almost like an art project to make it look better, to make the ghetto look better, and it was a broken windows policy, that if there's one broken window, there's going to be more broken windows. And in other words, you have to treat the small crimes, the window washer crimes, because it escalates. You know, that went out the window after Rudy had cleaned up the city. But in the 70s, when I lived there also, it was right out of the Warriors or Mad Max when you got on the subway. And that's why Bernie Goetz said, "You don't look so bad. Here, have another, Al Gonzalez." And Bernie Goetz was fed up on 14th Street. He didn't like it anymore. So, you know, Bernie Goetz became a cultural hero to a lot of people, just like Curtis Lee was a cultural hero with the Guardian Angels. And I think Curtis Lee may want to revisit with some money a run at that mayor's job again, because this guy, who I had high hopes for as a former police officer, has completely let us down in New York, and it should fall on his sword and probably will be indicted after the new year, I presume. You know, if they're stopping you on the street and taking your cell phones from the FBI, I assume there's some trouble in paradise in New York. But yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but I remember meeting Bill Bratton in New York when I was living in New York, and then I interviewed him here in LA when he was chief of police here in LA. And I wish we had Bill Bratton back in either one of the cities. I think he's working for a private security firm now, but you know, I miss the days of Bill Bratton. And he, you know, came up with this grid strategy. Rudy tried to take credit for it. It was probably both of them. And Gonzalez knows what I'm talking about, of just mapping crime and focusing in like a prevent defense into a region with heavy troops, heavy police presence, into a grid that Bratton created and it may have been the idea of lesser ranking officials, but Bratton was the one who implemented it in New York. And he did the same thing here in LA, which is a different type of crime strategy. We've got far less police officers than New York and 10 times the land to cover. And you got to use squad cars and helicopters out here. It's a whole different crime operation. But now Newsom again has dedicated the California Highway Patrol to stop mall smash and grabs of gun-toting thugs who are going into stores and taking out millions of dollars worth of merchandise. I don't know how the Chips, if you saw the show Chips, those two guys on motorcycles are going to stop robbing at Macy's, but this is Newsom's solution. Though it's going to be funny to watch.
Well, ironically, circling back to the broken windows theory, or there's also the parable of the broken window, which goes back to Frederick Bastiat in 1850.
Oh, yes. I was going to say that, but you're on it. So good. Go ahead. Tell me about Basquiat, the black graffiti artist, or no?
No, he's the dead heroin addict from much more recent. Okay. Anyway, that theory was if somebody breaks a window, well, that's going to help a glacier because they have to replace the window, and it's been tied to Keynes in the future. So I think it's kind of funny to have a very weird leftist policy flipped on its head with the broken windows theory, with the fare jumping and things like that. And part of the magic of the fare jumping, et cetera, was when they stopped the people from jumping for fares, because guess what? Criminals don't tend to like to pay money. They tend to be cheap.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
they would
Yeah.
grab them. And then when they grab them, they go, oh, well, look at that. There's a warrant out for you.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. And it would just grab a whole bunch of them. So they were solving like 8 crimes just by snagging a fare jumper. Suddenly they're getting locked up on other warrants and things like that. That's why it dropped like a rock so quickly.
Well, here's one for Alan and maybe Al remembers this. And the opening of Sea of Love with Al Pacino, there is a scene where these guys are invited because they've gotten Super Bowl tickets from a letter that they received, and they show up at a warehouse to get these Super Bowl tickets. And it turns out that they're all warrants, outstanding warrants, that they arrest them all on this scam that the New York City police ran to get out these letters to these different people that they won Super Bowl tickets. No, it was tickets to the Yankee game. I take it back. It wasn't Super Bowl. It was a Yankee game. And so they showed up and they arrested all of them. It looked like there was a couple of hundred that came in there. And they arrested them with this letter. And Al Pacino was running this sting as a New York City detective in Sea of Love with Ellen Barkin, who apparently knew my entire life when I met her. Ellen Barkin, one of the sexiest women in the world, only because I worked with her brother, George Barkin, at National Lampoon. But that's a story for another day. Ellen Barkin plays the love interest in Sea of Love, which I highly recommend. Great New York City crime movie. But humorously enough, the sting operation, they arrest all these guys, and as Al Pacino's leaving in a detective car, another black guy shows up with his kid and says, "I'm too late. Am I too late?" And he shows him the letter, and Al Pacino feels sorry for him because he brought his little boy, and he says, "Yeah, you're too late. You missed the bus, buddy." And he lets him go. Yeah, it's a really touching moment, a really great moment in the opening of Sea of Love, which I recommend this weekend as a film.
I think that's actually been done.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, of course.
With Deadbeat Dads.
No. But this story actually happened. That's what I'm saying. And Gonzalez remembers this, I presume, because it did happen during his career. But a fascinating story nevertheless. And, there's different things that the police can do if they are able to take the restraints off of them. And there's things they could do undercover, which they're not doing anymore. I mean, LA is just like Mad Max out here. I mean, this is just crazy out here, what's going on. New York, I assume, is just as crazy, but it's much more controllable in New York because of the smaller size of the city.
Right. All right. Here's one that's going to annoy you. Remember when the churches were shut down under Trump? How is that Christian?
Well, they were done by states. Gavin Newsom shut them down here. Trump didn't shut them down. Gavin Newsom shut them down. Gavin Newsom shut down the gyms. Gavin Newsom kept the liquor store opens. Gavin Newsom shut down all the AA meetings in the city, all the NA meetings in the city. Gavin Newsom shut down all the churches in the state. That was not Donald Trump. I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm just trying to straighten out the record.
All right. And other states, by the way, other governors shut down in their states.
Right. And I'm just referring to my own. I mean, yeah.
Sure. Sean Colson, have you seen the Govea video about Smith being illegally appointed a special?
I haven't. No. Yeah, I haven't. But that's why
that would be a good one to check out. Robert
I was
Govea.
referring to the Ed Meese declaration that started this thing as former Attorney General Ed Meese, who cost me a lot of money when I was at National Lampoon, because of the Meese Commission saying that we were pornography and taking us off the newsstand, putting us behind the counter in a plastic bag, along with Penthouse and Playboy, which cost us a lot of advertisers and a lot of money. So tip of the hat to Ed Meese, that piece of shit. But this ruling here might be, he may be onto something.
Tip of the hat, but he's obviously effective.
Right. No. Look, I'm saying it affected me.
Yeah. Todd Gavin, thank you very much. $100. Question, Mark, where do you prefer Christmas? La La Land or New York City? For the book chest, might pay for a few pages. Not being sarcastic, people, they're expensive. Merry
Yeah,
Christmas and
yeah.
Happy
I just want
Hanukkah.
to say something. I got this book yesterday, Chokeholds, from the Book Fund people, and through the JFK Book Fund, on Venmo and PayPal. And as soon as I open it, the page comes flying out. Brand new book, put together.
And how much
by
was that? $3, right?
This was a $30 book, and this is written by our friends Jim DiEugenio and Paul Blau. When I'm done with the book, which is called Chokeholds, it's about 10 chokeholds in the JFK assassination. And what that means is chokeholds meaning 10 points that are irrefutably undebatable by the Bugliosis and the Lone Nutters and the Gerald Posners of the world. So this book here is by 4 different authors. 2 of them I know. The other guys are lawyers. But when I'm done with this book, hopefully, I mean, Jim wants to come on the show and do an interview, and maybe we can get him and Paul on to do this book, Chokeholds. But this is through the JFK Book Fund. This is where your money goes, by the way, to books that have pages coming out. But again, this is no fault of the Book Fund. It's that they have to use independent presses on occasion to get these books published that are not by Random House and have better glue. It doesn't affect the message because the book has some introduction by an obscure JFK expert named Oliver Stone, who apparently is no friend of Israel. But this is where the JFK Book Fund money goes for people who have donated for the past couple of years.
All right. Oh, that's a good one. Joshua wants to know, what secrets does Trump know on Gavin Newsom since Gavin's ex-wife is married to Trump Jr.?
I guess you have to ask Trump Jr. I mean, they're a couple of dating. I don't know what status that is, but it's one of the stranger bedfellow stories of Kimberly Guilfoyle. Who knows what her story is? I mean, how do you go from Gavin Newsom to Trump Jr.? I don't know how you make that leap. It's like going from Chris Christie to Don Knotts. It's just a crazy, crazy bridge too far.
Apparently Hannity can do it.
Who did Hannity have? Some other estranged wife or something?
No. He's buddies with the Trumps, but he's also buddies with Newsom.
Oh,
he was talking about that. It was a weird thing because right before the debate, I guess Hannity and Newsom were just like best buddies. And
by the way, I told you this the other day. I've completely switched to Newsmax. I've been watching Eric Bolling, this guy Schmidt, who's on at night, who's I guess originally Iranian or something. Absolutely fantastic evening lineup, by the way. I've gone full Newsmax all the time now, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I was kind of looking around for something, and it's very enlightening. Some very good evening shows, and during the day too. Full on Trump channel.
Cool. George Erickson, question mark, and Eric, what are your Venmo accounts? We'll be donating through Venmo to avoid 30% rake at the top by YouTube. Yes, donating through Venmo does avoid the 30%. There might be a negligible thing. I don't know what it is, but it's a very effective means. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all of them are listed in the description.
They're listed down below. Yeah.
Of this video and others.
Yeah.
So,
and thank you. All of the links down there. Thank you so much. That's where the book fund money goes and other monies.
Yep.
Offset these pirates of the Caribbean who are raping and pillaging Eric and I.
Yeah. Shannon, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Love your show. Thank you. And
J.R. Ewing's daughter, by the way, out of Texas, right there, Shannon Ewing.
Okay. All right. Soltron, Eric, did you see Good Logic's commentary on the Rocky Mountain Heist documentary about how Colorado went from right to left? I have not seen his commentary on that, but
I have not. I guess
I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of the documentary either.
I haven't heard of any of that. I thought it was a state that was in play for a number of years, but now with their insane legalization of marijuana, the amount of emergency room trips, mostly from edibles, has increased by like 300%. The emergency room doctors are overwhelmed by kids coming in emergency situations, as pointed out in Benson's book, Teach Your Children. The amount of overdoses from edibles is through the roof in Colorado.
Okay, well, I'm putting a link to it in the description. Apparently, it's on BitChute for free if people want to watch that. I think that Mark, I lived in Tucson grew up there. I think that California just got taken over by freaking California, same way as Oregon.
Well, you're saying Colorado got taken over by California?
Yeah, just like and we had them moving into Arizona. I mean, California, they spread the message. Unfortunately.
Again, to push back, I believe the people fleeing are not leftist Marxists. They are people like myself who have had it with California and are fed up. I don't think the people comfortable with the politics here are pulling up stakes and saying, I'm going to go to Colorado. I think
sure
these
I lived it.
I think
they
that
buy property for cheap.
The people fleeing the state of California are people who are fed up with the politics of the state of California.
Okay, that's people who are fleeing, but that's not the only people who are leaving.
I used fleeing. I could have said leaving, but I said fleeing.
I know, but not everybody's escaping. Some people are saying, "Oh, I could go buy a house in Tucson for $200,000 that's worth $1 million in California, drive up the rates and come up with my bullshit idiot ideas for laws." It's been going on for decades. I've watched it. I've lived it.
I have my doubts.
Okay. Well,
we agree to disagree.
All right, fair enough.
Everyone I know who's fled California were people who are conservatives who have fled California.
Well, that's the same logic as I don't know who voted for Nixon. Nobody I know voted for him.
I don't know about that logic either. That's also crazy.
Well, that's my point. I mean, that literally was a statement. Just because of who you know doesn't mean
I know people like myself who've had it with California. They're not going to set up California in another state. That's not what they're doing. Okay, all right.
Well, I'm telling you, that's how Tucson turned blue.
I don't know about Tucson. You're from Tucson. You tell me.
Colorado, Prescott. How's Prescott? You like Prescott? Where are they coming from? Are they getting hatched?
I happen to like Prescott. That's on my top 5 list.
Yeah, well, Arizona's turning blue, so now you're going, oh shit, can I go there? No.
Well, no. Again, like Tucker said, and Victor Davis Hanson said, moving to Tennessee is not going to save us. And I've looked around the country at various locations, but the theme is possibly and probably correct. They're going to come for you wherever you go.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to stay here and form a resistance movement, a French underground with berets, as I've said before, and begin sabotage and doing nefarious things against the empire. Is that wrong?
I think that's fantastic. And while you're there, please keep all the other idiots too.
Eric, I can't control the other idiots, so you can live in your bubble somewhere. I mean, this is a revolution that's going on. I'm behind enemy lines as a war correspondent and also as a subversive resistance fighter against the empire.
Well, and good, but keep the empire there. Just destroy it in place.
Okay, it's not going to come to Virginia.
Well, fortunately, no. We've got other issues, but good. I don't want them. Harvard should be sanctioned for not finding gays plagiarism. They should have found it first. Yeah, but they don't care.
Sanctioned by who? The International Society of Colleges, or who's going to sanction them? The line judge?
The only people are donors.
The donation people have to pull out their money. That's how this should be done. And when the administration changes, he has to cut off every federal cent for every single thing. And I'm talking about sports and everything else, because they'll take the Title IX money and give it to transgender football players at Harvard. So every cent's got to be cut off, unfortunately, to drive a financial stake into the hearts of these Marxists.
I agree. Not only take the money out of Harvard, but then put it in Elon's new school.
Oh, move
it. No, I'm just saying. It's like set an example, carrot and stick.
Musk U, which I'm calling it, I doubt that's going to be the name, are going to have Hunley and I teaching American history when Musk begins to form a brick and mortar school, hopefully. I guess we could do it online, but isn't that what's his name does? With his school online.
I don't know. Prager,
yeah, Prager U.
Sure.
Don't they have a lot of classes online? I mean,
they do, but it's not an accredited thing. But by the way, knowing Elon Musk, from what I've seen, Musk U is a very distinct possibility.
I know. I'm not kidding.
He named his car line "Sexy."
Yeah, no, I'm not. By the way, somebody said that that there's been rainstorms out here the past couple of nights, and they pulled over this woman. She pulled over, her Tesla got flooded, and she pointed out that the design of the roof, when you open the door, the design goes inward and you're drenched in rain. So she was critical of Musk's design of the Tesla roof, drenched in water. Some sort of chick who was upset about her clothing getting wet.
Yeah, but at least the Cybertruck has bulletproof doors.
Right, that is true.
But not windows.
Oh no,
no. It's okay.
You got to pay extra for the windows. I guess.
You definitely do. Well,
look, I just want to know what happened to the car in outer space. I just want to see what that David Bowie mobile is doing.
It's in orbit,
right? But I'd like to see some film footage of the orbit.
I don't know. I don't know. Brian C., the Daily Mail reports that Soros financially supports removal of Trump from ballot in Colorado and California. Soros is a key threat to the country.
Yeah, he funded an organization called Cruz, Citizens for Responsible Ethics in Washington. Cruz gave over $300,000 to Colorado to start this lawsuit to remove him from the ballot. That comes from Soros through the NGO called Cruz. And also, there's two judges. One judge gave over $20,000 to Joe Biden in one fiscal year, which is odd for a state judge to have $20,000 of her salary to give to a presidential candidate in one fiscal year. That's an enormous amount of money. But famously, there's another judge called Seymour who dissented in the opinion. Seymour, who is a Democratic, people are forgetting the dissenters in the case were all Democrats, Eric. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's a 100% Democrat course. So, yeah.
So he said, and it's just a brief quote, he said, this flies in the face of the due process doctrine, inevitably will lead to the disqualification of President Trump from the presidential primary ballot in less than all 50 states, thereby risking chaos in our country. This can't possibly be the outcome the framers intended. This is the liberal Democratic judge of the three liberal judges that dissented, and the guy's name is Seymour. I wish he did say more, but this is quite enough of what he said.
Joe covered that and said that he wrote a very scathing, well-written piece. Like it could have been MAGA written. It was
well, he said, again, quoting from him, this is Judge Seymour, there was no fair trial either. President Trump was not offered the opportunity to request a jury of his peers. Experts opined about some of the facts surrounding the January 6th incident and theorized about the law, including as it relates to the interpretation and application of the 14th Amendment generally and Section 3 specifically. And the court received and considered a partial congressional report, people, that the admissibility of which is not beyond reproach. Again, this is Judge Seymour. I have been involved, finally says, I have been involved in the justice system for 33 years now, and what took place here doesn't resemble anything I've ever seen in a courtroom. In my experience in our adversarial system, parties are always allowed to blah, blah, blah. I mean, quite a statement on the part of the one of the dissenting judges in the Colorado case. It doesn't matter. He didn't get his check. You only had to give, you had 7 judges. You only had to pay 4 in this game show. Why pay 7? That's insane. I mean, if they really wanted to spend the money, they would have gotten all 7 with paychecks. But they said, 4 puts us over the top. We got a 4-3 win up on the board. Why spend the extra 3? So this guy didn't get a check, so he's opining.
Or maybe he's one of the last remaining Democrats like Dershowitz out there who actually does respect it. It's possible.
Well, right. Dershowitz cited Article 5 of that amendment that it has to be Congress to ban anyone from a ballot under the so-called crazy insurrection statute, even if it was applied. And he denies that it's an insurrection himself. He just called it a riot that got out of control, like most.
It is a riot. Yeah,
whatever. But this was in the pre-planning months and months before, people. The ballot in Colorado goes back to the last summer when they were planning this insurrection with federal. What's that?
The narrative.
The narrative and also
Yeah.
the physical activity. They said we're going to do. They have probably white papers on this written by the Rand Corporation or one of their NGOs on how to pull this off, as we saw in the famous Marcia Ball article in Time Magazine on the recap of the election on how they pulled it off. They do their homework. These are not willy-nilly events. All of this was strategized in advance. There's no conspiracy about this. This is what they do. I mean, the fact that people can't see this is astounding to me. But maybe because I came over from their side, maybe it just seems much more clear to me.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're used to swimming in water, you don't notice it.
You're right.
Pasha, Mark, if we can answer your "where have they been" query as a non-rhetorical question, maybe we can go to those places and rescue them.
This guy lives in a pun world. I'm happy for it. He's like, if they remake the movie Elf, he should play the Will Ferrell part.
Maybe. Trey Ellswick. So sorry, Grobert. Victim of autocorrect. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.
I'm kidding. Trey, thank you. The real name is Travis, but it autocorrect. It came out Trey.
Okay. Have you done a video on Woody Allen, his story?
We will. I double dated my mother. They both went to Midwood High School. He could have been my father, but Phyllis, her girlfriend, went with Woody Allen. I could have been Ronan Farrow, but she had to marry some grease monkey from JFK airport instead of Woody Allen. So we will be doing a Woody Allen with some personal storylines involving myself. What could have been myself, but apparently it's not myself because he's not my father.
Whatever could have been. Thomas Chiefhaber. Ellen Barkin and Diner. I met her on Levison's set in Baltimore back then. Something about her, eh, Mark? Hot stuff.
Yeah, dude. I met her with what's her name? Roseanne
Barr?
Would you got to get off of Roseanne Barr, the Roseanne Arquette.
Oh, Arquette. Okay.
Yeah, Roseanne Barr. Yeah, and that's a team going out to pick up men. Roseanne Barr and Ellen.
Hey, there's always the ugly wing person.
No, not in this case. It was Roseanne Arquette and Ellen Barkin. But the funny thing was, what's his name came in from Die Hard, Bruce Willis, and we were in Planet Hollywood on 57th Street in Manhattan. And they both said, "Oh my God, here comes this moron." So he immediately makes a beeline to them, and they were just torturing Bruce Willis. I mean, it was hard to watch. They did not like Bruce Willis one bit, but they were lovely ladies. Let me put it that way.
Wow. Any more with Bruce? He's a sad situation there. Jay, even if all the people leaving California are lunatic commies, they dwarfed by the future Democrat voting Zerg crossing the border.
What's a Zerg? Surge?
Maybe.
Surge?
Maybe Surge? Don't know.
Surge? You know what? We need the Enigma machine just to translate the comments that we get on this channel. If we could bring in the German Enigma machine, which apparently the Japanese had an Enigma machine too, that different countries had it.
Oh, why not? Got to have different options. Let me see. We've got a Rumble rant I just saw coming in. Merry Christmas. $10 from DB Crazy, and thank you very much.
What about this story about? Remember this story I told you about? This incredible thing about Matthew Perry in the Daily Mail yesterday. Wow, what a scathing article. Apparently lying to everyone about his sobriety, a total of a train wreck of a man. All of his friends believed he was sober, and pills everywhere. I'm totally shocked.
As in you're not. I mean, I don't know. I don't swim in that world. And
I swim in that world, my friend.
I know you do, and it's sad.
It just angers me. It doesn't sadden me. It just angers me that he deceived so many people. Nobody begrudges somebody from relapsing and dying, but when you're saying you're sober for years and you're not, and the people know, it becomes a problem for people who are not famous, who are trying to look up to you and respect you, and you're lying, and then you've been using for years, lying about it. It becomes a problem in the recovery community. That being said, he was bragging about spending $9 million on recovery and going to 6,000 meetings and all this other stuff. None of it's relevant, but it is relevant when you go public with it, which is what he famously did. And there's a reason that they go public with it, and it's to get bonded for productions. And Robert Downey had told me about this, that he had to go to Corcoran State Prison to get clean and sober and then come out and get bonded for a movie company. And now you have to get bonded legally by the insurance company of a film. So these guys get piss tested and frequently have people with them to make sure they don't relapse, because it can destroy a multi-million-dollar production, as you can imagine, of a film, like an Iron Man or something. Sure. Right. Okay. So there's a financial incentive to lie to get things going. And then what do you do? The production's going, a guy relapses. It could lead to a lot of problems.
Is that a sober companion? Is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 So anyway, so there's a situation out here with the studios where they will do all this stuff to get someone who's freshly out of rehab or clean and sober for a year, not a year, 10 minutes, whatever it is. There's an incentive on one side to lie, and there's an incentive on the studio side to protect their investment. So that has become an entire world unto itself out here, because addiction among celebrities is probably 3 to 10 times higher than normal people because of various obvious reasons in terms of, access to money, access to drugs, party, blah, 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 whatever. But, Matthew Perry, a complete train wreck of a man. Once you start writing memoirs about it and say you've got this thing licked, it's usually the kiss of death. And that's what happened to Perry. It's sad, in a way, but it's a lot sadder, if a non-celebrity person just happens to relapse and die. This guy had all the resources on the face of the earth. Addiction is a great leveler. It's kind of like God's joke on the elites. You can't buy your way out of addiction. You cannot buy recovery. You got to do the work. And elites don't want to do it, and they'll pay anything on earth to avoid doing the work, and they usually die from it.
Wow, that is sad. Speaking of sad, one thing that I've been working on lately, Mark, we like to talk about for our locals, and I highly recommend everybody do check out Locals. On Locals, we are working on releasing a 5-part series.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that for a second.
Drama. And essentially in that, well, I'll wait till you get back.
Okay.
We are, this past week, I've spent quite a bit of time working with a programmer. And this is Tom Gallucci, also known as Professor Tom, who's in the Locals community. And you may want to listen to this little segment here.
Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz.
Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz.
Now, foobar is something that's used in programming. It actually comes out of the military. But anytime, whenever you see programmers, a lot of times you'll see a bunch of code and you'll see the output of foo and bar or foo bar. And technically that came out of the military, F-U-B-A-R, or F'd up beyond all recognition. So I'm going to play it again, Mark, now that you're back.
What is it? Well, that's from Saving Private Ryan, too.
Well, no, it's just the military. But I
mean, it's in the script of the film.
Well, I'm sure it is.
It's one of the running jokes by Ed Burns that we discussed the other day with the grenade.
Okay. Well, and the key thing about it is that programmers use foo and bar to do test output. So instead of hello world, they might say foo, bar, whatever. And
what happened to the thing about Oswald?
I'm talking about it.
Okay,
work
thank
with
you.
me. Work with me here.
I was gone for a second. I'm sorry. It goes on to another subject. Go ahead.
Anyway, foobar is something that's output by programming. I've been working with Professor Tom on some programming with the audio drama for Oswald, and here is a little fun sample.
Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz.
Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz. Foobar Baz.
Anyways, random voices. So instead of doing the dialogue, we're programmatically working on feeding script chunks through versus taking a line, taking another line and putting it together. We're trying to get it to flow quicker And as a sample, foo and bar with the Baz is a way to put it out. And I just wanted to let everybody know I've been getting some help from that. This is from Professor Tom. Sadly, he's been laid off from his job.
What?
Doesn't have a lot of funds, things like that. If anybody wants to donate a couple bucks for the holidays or anything, he's got a buy me a coffee link, which I put into the descriptions, both here on YouTube and on Rumble. It always helps a lot. And he's really been doing a whole lot of work with me to help me conquer some programming issues to take this to the next level. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Once we do take it to the next level, which was, as Eric said, 5 parts. For next year in Dallas, I want to do my LBJ script through the AI. Hopefully we'll have this mastered by then. It'll be a lot quicker process, but I want to do the same thing and go to the Allen Library, give a sample of that and focus on LBJ, which I told them that I would come back next year and do LBJ. And I think whatever conference Eric and I go to, if we go back to Lancer, right? We're going to try to focus on LBJ and this other script that I wrote for Oliver Stone as well. There's only one part to the LBJ script. There's only part 1. I didn't write the other 4 on spec.
So far.
Right. I didn't write the other 4 because I just couldn't take it anymore of writing for free. But there is one solid part 1, a full script, which we can AI for next year after the Oswalds are released.
Yeah, and I look forward to the time that I have it all completed. And I say, come on, Mark, step up, get writing. Get writing.
Well,
Get writing.
There's a few scripts that I want to AI. I'd like to AI the Abby Hoffman script. And specifically, I'd like to AI the RFK Must Die script, which goes into full detail of the killing of RFK with Thane Eugene Caesar. That I really want to AI. And if we could visualize that, that's my dream, because that thing is a very visual script with a lot of flashbacks and dream sequences and a lot of stuff involving Sirhan and hypnosis. And that's actually a better script. It's probably the best script I've ever written is the RFK script.
Okay, well, Mark, if you're offended, I'm sorry. Apparently, Piano Man is very upset with me.
What did you do? I don't understand.
I guess I had a testy tone.
Oh, come on.
So I guess Piano Man, go F yourself.
You know what's funny? Like Eric has he's like influenced my tone to turn it down, and I think I'm influencing his tone a little bit to turn it up, because he's not as polite as when I first met him. No, I'm serious. I'm a lot more polite since I met Eric.
Well, good.
He has turned my heat and turned me. I mean, I still block people on Twitter, but that's
well, nothing is going to stop that.
I'm not going to stop that. There was some guy telling me that Vicodin was a very weak, addictive opioid, and I just can't have these messages out there, in the recovery community. I said, bro, I don't know what planet you're coming from or whatever. And I was obviously like about Matthew Perry taking 55 Vicodin a day. And I've known people to take 55 Vicodin a day, and some of them are dead or they're in recovery. But this guy just decided that that Vicodin was a very weak opioid. Anyway, these are the people I block, because I can't exist and have that on my feed, in terms of who I am and what I represent.
True. And the last super chat of the day, Ban Hammer, is saying, how much longer does this country have? Civil strife,
yeah.
Little international support for our plain world police empire. Look at that sad Navy coalition.
What's the Navy coalition? What is that?
I don't even know anymore. I can't keep up.
You mean in the Red Sea or something? We're being
Probably.
attacked by pirates, or I'm not aware of the Navy coalition part, but I don't know how long we have, but I'll tell you this much. I decided, 3 or 4 years ago to give it this election, and that's it. If this doesn't work, we got to go to plan B, and whatever plan B is, there's got to be something. Because if Trump is leading in every single poll and the election is stolen, and it becomes apparently obvious to the American people that this is what happened, then we got to do something. Everybody's got to get off their fat asses and do something. The second part is the draconian crazy crap of 2024, in my humble opinion, is going to happen between Election Day and January 20th. Because even if Trump is victorious over the Biden administration, they will not be leaving until January 20th. And if you think you've seen crazy crap done in a period of time by an administration, hold on to your hats, because that period between the election and January 20th, if they lose, is going to be the craziest time in American history.
Oh, I have no doubt. No doubt. And thank you, Crystal, for the 5 memberships. I definitely appreciate that. And it's a great way to show support. Best way
I
to
bet
show
you there's
support.
another super chat somewhere. If you dig down,
That
into
was it.
I
for
think
now,
no. I
but-
think there's
but-
I think there's one in your couch, Eric, that you're sitting on that you could pull out of your ass. There's one, because I don't want to hear about it afterwards that we forgot. Joe Blow from Kokomo.
I got a Rumble rant fitting in from Alex
Okay,
Davies.
there you go. There you go.
$20 saying, thanks for a great year, Eric and Mark. Best Christmas and Hanukkah. May 2024 be awesome. Great. I just found the super chat button on Rumble. Well, thank you very much for
Okay,
the
what's it
Rumble
called over
rant.
there? Super Rumble chat?
It's a rant. It's a
Oh,
Rumble.
rant.
So, but we are going to head over
Wait, what?
now.
I just want to say one thing before we go over.
All right.
That I don't know, but I was worried about the subscriptions and increasing them. I saw it's like stuck at 104,000 subscribers.
105 now.
Oh, it's under 5. So I just wanted to ring that bell and see if it can get a little higher during the Christmas season. I was going to take Tuesday off, but Eric has convinced me to come back on Tuesday. There's never a day off or a week off with this goddamn show. So Eric just starts crying and goes into a fetal position. But maybe it'll increase the number of subscribers if we do a post-Christmas Day show with Christmas hats on or some bullshit and focus on LBJ questions specifically and not Dorothy Kilgallen. Again, I don't know the status of that movie by Barry Levinson. Somebody mentioned Diner with Barry Levinson. He's apparently producing or directing or writing a movie about Dorothy Kilgallen. For all you women out there, I ran into a friend the other day in the parking lot in Griffith Park. I hadn't seen her in years, and she said she loves the show. And I said, oh, thank you. And she says, I've been commenting as so-and-so is supporting Dorothy Kilgallen. And we both cracked up laughing. And I said, well, you're not alone. You may have a movie coming out soon. So she was very happy about that.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me see. Well, somebody snuck in.
There you go. Way to go, Kiki. Way to get it in there. I knew somebody would pull the lever.
Yeah, you know who really pulled the lever here is Basil's back.
Basil, look at this. Look, I told you. They're all in the couch, Eric. Get off your fat ass. They're sitting underneath you. Truthful prediction for 2024 about the chaos. Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. And there's a couple of other truthful predictions. One is, like I said, I'm sticking with my theory that they're going to pull the plug on the old man, Dr. Strangelove Biden, right before the convention in July in Chicago. I believe that they will nominate Gavin Newsom, and he will get more delegates in a nomination process than Kamala Harris. And I think it'll be legal, above board, and gavel-esque, but it'll be in the smoke-filled room behind the scenes, and Biden will stay on. And Newsom will have the nomination to run. And I'm predicting, and now apparently someone else has heard me say this, and it's Cornel West, who the other day predicted that Biden will pull an LBJ and refuse to run and step down, like LBJ famously did on March 31st, 1968, when he said, I will not accept, nor will I run for the presidency of the United States in 1968, using his handpicked stooge, Hubert Humphrey, to be his tool. I think that Newsom is going to be the Humphrey of 2024.
All right. Basil said bingo.
There you go. Yeah, B-I-N-G-O, and bingo was his name. Thanks, Basil. I mean, I don't think they're going to want to go into this thing. They're obviously squeezing Biden by grabbing the balls of his son. It's not Trump people who are doing this. It's not Trump elected officials. It's not the Republican Party that's squeezing Hunter Biden. It's the Democratic machine. Why they woke up one day and decided to go after Hunter Biden is quite obvious. It's to put pressure on Joe Biden that they've got him by the short hairs and we'd like you to step aside. Privately, the elder statesmen of the party will eventually go to him, whoever these elder statesmen are, probably like John Kerry, and a group of men will go. This is the scenario I imagine. A group of elder statesmen in the Democratic Party will go to Joe Biden and say, for the good of the country, you're going to have to step down, Joe. The Hunter Biden thing will be a pardon by him at the end of the day, and it'll be pushed back into after the election. But they may want to speed it up so he's convicted so we can pardon him by January 20th. Anyway, I think the elder statesmen will come and talk to him, and that's when Joe will respect their requests, and Gavin Newsom will be handed the gavel to continue their quest for communism.
All right. Heather, whatever, with a super sticker. Thank you very much, Heather.
And by the way, I think that Gavin Newsom would be a far more formidable opponent to Donald Trump than Joe Biden, because none of this stuff hangs around his neck like an albatross. The Afghanistan debacle, where Backstrom Air Force Base is now being run by the Chinese, where the debacle involving the border, the debacle with Ukraine, the debacle with Israel, none of that would be on Newsom's neck if he replaces Biden for the campaign from July till November. It's a short window, and there could be a lot of momentum and a lot of energy for this younger guy coming in. I mean, the support for Biden just seems to be in free fall, Eric. He's down to like 33, 32% approval rating now. I mean, if it gets into the 20s, you're talking about very, very dark times for them. Yeah.
True. Dustin, the real father-in-law, says hi. Hi to the real father-in-law. Maybe we'll see.
Dustin, are you going to help us in
We're talking. I'll talk.
Oh, okay.
But,
somebody's got to be a tour guide for us. I mean, it's funny. We once went as I think it was National Lampoon. We went down to put on the world's largest toga party.
We have an episode if people want to check it out.
Yeah, at Tulane. So Tulane assigned a kid who was our guide, and he took us to all the offbeat sites in New Orleans, and they were some offbeat sites in New Orleans. He took us to a guy who was in back of the 7-Eleven typing the world's longest novel on a bunch of boxes, and he just had reams of paper in the parking lot of the world's longest novel. And then he took us to the Deeks fraternity house, the Deeks being the original Delta House fraternity. Not technically, because the level of Delta House, which was obviously at a Brown University, according to Chris Miller, who was a friend of mine, who wrote Animal House. Most of that was Brown. So we have to go over to locals. Eric is having a panic attack. I'll talk to the locals people about the secret stuff, the secret documents that I've given over to locals this week. If you're not on locals, you're not going to get the secret documents. Look, here's a woman won't let us go. This is Pontiac. What does that czar mean? Is that the czar?
I think
Nicholas?
that's South African.
What's a czar? What's a czar? And what's a czar worth to Eric? Zimbabwe. It's Zimbabwe money.
Well, it's something similar to that.
That's $5,000 in American money.
I don't know, but now people want to pile on. Thank you very much, Walinoko. It is going to be a race.
I'm telling you, don't let Hunley go. He just wants to bury you people because he's probably got to go to the bathroom or something.
Oh, well, maybe he doesn't walk off in the middle of the show like somebody else.
The reality of it is there's secret documents over on locals. When we go over to locals, we're going to talk dirty. It's going to be an X-rated show. I want to talk more about South Park and the craziest. I mean, I just want to say South Park and penises and minors. I'm going to say those three things. I will explain it.
South African
Rand, the Rand Paul Fund over in South Africa. Is a rand is their dollar?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, when we go to locals, we'll discuss all these secret things that you're not going to hear here on YouTube. You can come over with us, or you can stay here.
It's free. It's free to follow us.
There's no cover charge, and there's a 2-drink minimum to get in. But you can buy someone else a drink, get in there. And does anybody know how to make a duck? Because I've ordered this duck, this fresh duck, and I'm cooking it for Christmas. So if anybody knows how to make a duck, I want to make this roast duck. But I can't seem to find any duck sauce, or what goes on, like orange glaze. If somebody, some of the women may know on locals, please tell me how to make a duck, because I've got till Christmas. Oh, Natalie's a big fan with her. Oh, we met them in Alabama. Yeah, they've been a long time. So when we go to Youngstown, hopefully a lot of the same people will show up.
All right. And for now, though, we'll see everybody on Locals.
Oh.